John's blocked by our plant. There's his finger. Hey, welcome. It's the Genesee County Compassion Club show. How's everybody doing today? Back at allpointstv.com. I have Mr. Eric Gunnels with me in the studio today. Man, it's good to be back. It's December. Everybody's getting ready for Christmas holidays. And we've got a lot of stuff going on with medical marijuana. So, yeah, definitely. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to let you know what's happening down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. Keep you up to date with the club events. And basically just, let you guys know what's been happening. We had the Senate hearing yesterday. I know everybody's interested to hear about that. Mr. Gunnels was there, and he's going to give us an update. And then we also had some other stuff happening around the country. It's been a couple weeks since we've been back in the studio, but it's good to be back. So, hey, we'll get off with the calendar first. I know that right now during the month of December, we don't have a soup kitchen going on down at the Compassion Club. However, we are taking donations, and we are doing a food drive for the North End Soup Kitchens. We've already taken one shipment down there, an entire pickup truck full of food, and we've got another table that's nearly full right there at the Genesee County Compassion Club. So if you can, bring in some of those non-spoilable items. Also, toiletries and things like that are also appreciated at the soup kitchen. And we'll be making that donation directly to them. We also are taking them a cash donation as well, so any cash donations that we can receive from our members go directly to them. And I think I was told we already have like close to $1,000.
Oh, wow.
So,
nice.
Yeah, very cool. And it goes a long ways. I mean, the soup kitchen down there serves a lot of folks in the area, and it's awesome to be a part of it. We were also able this year, the G3C is able to give to the American Disabled Vets Program again. We were able to help out the United Methodist Church in Genesee Township, feeding the family program there. And then there were also a couple families in need that we're going to be reaching out to. We won't be talking about who they are, but these are just people that are in the Genesee County area. And then we also were able to help out the Flint, let me get this right, Pregnancy Crisis Center. We were also able to do a donation for them too, which they were like, really? Wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so
awesome.
And that's all on behalf of our G3C members. So this is something we like to do every year. It's a holiday season. It's about giving back. It's about showing appreciation and a little care and love in the community. So that's what we did.
I love that. That's awesome.
You guys did that, actually. We were just able to facilitate it for you. So Thank you guys. Thank you, members. Thank you, G3C, because there's a lot of people that are going to have a better holiday this season directly because of you. So I want to talk about that first of all on the show today, because that's the most important thing, is helping out each other. So
absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah. Other stuff that we got going on, man, it's the club's still happening. It's busy. Our testing stuff is kicking it, and I know that we're getting that up and running again. We had to do some changes. Did you know that the world is running out of helium?
I did know this.
Yeah. You should have told us that shit.
I was actually informed by the tech, Sean.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's why our machine was down temporarily, as our gas supply company was not actually able to get the kind of helium that we need. We have to have a pretty high grade of purity. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the kind of stuff you go buy at the dollar store to fill up your kids' balloons. It's different kind of helium.
And it can't be recreated on the earth, right? It's just right. Whatever helium is in existence
is what we got.
Yeah. So once it's gone, it's gone.
Once it's gone, it's gone. And they predict like by 2020 something,
so
the world's helium supply will be exhausted.
Should we stop putting helium in balloons?
I believe it is a different kind of helium. Don't quote me on this. I am not a chemist.
But did you know the helium actually was found in the greatest deposits was in the United States, and the Hindenburg, the Germans wanted helium because it's not flammable for to fill out their dirigibles, and it's because we wouldn't get, there was like basically a boycott against Germany. We actually inadvertently caused. We probably would have caused the great disaster when it was landing there in New Jersey. So, because it was hydrogen and it was really flammable. If it was helium, there wouldn't have been a tragedy. So, yeah.
Of course, they would have been using up the world's helium supply for a stupid blimp thing that would have been outdated in a couple weeks. But at any rate, screw helium. We need it to make our machine work. We got some now, so we're going to be up and running. That's the important thing. So you guys can get your meds tested at the lab. And thank you, Sean.
They use that for they use that for a spectrometer or whatever they call that. Or
I
can never pronounce that.
Yeah. Like I said, not a chemist, but you need that.
Yes.
So
that's fantastic.
I guess I was kind of talking to our tech, Sean, about that, and the question is, what is the scientific community going to do when the world's helium supply runs out? What other types of testing forms will be available by then?
Sure.
They don't know yet. So I guess for you venture capitalists out there, figure out a way to test stuff without helium, and you'll be a megazillionaire. Wow. All right, other stuff we got going on in the world today. We'll talk about some other topics before we talk about yesterday's Senate hearing. There was a couple other things that have happened in the last couple weeks. One of them was the Jamaica High Times World Cannabis Cup. It happened down in Jamaica. I know we had some of our own club members not only there, but some of them were actually competing. So I just wanted to say congrats to Dale, who I know was rocking it out down there. And I don't know if he officially placed in the contest, but the fact that he was competing again, his THC company that he is, that rocks. I think it was freaking awesome. So congrats to Dale and anybody else who went down there. I hope you had an awesome time. I know you can check out the results online as far as who won the High Times Cups. Whatever. I don't really care a lot about the contest. I just think it's cool that all those people, all these businesses are being created because of this.
Oh, sure.
And it's a way for them to be, nationally recognized. So I think that's awesome. Right?
And the cup's a lot of fun too.
Absolutely. It's in Jamaica. I mean, am I jealous? Yeah.
I went to the one. I went to the one in Denver.
Denver.
I did.
That's cool.
That was very
I thought
fun.
you were going to say Clio. I was like,
I was at that one too. I mean, that's my hometown. I mean, come on now.
not to poo on the Clio.
Right.
I'm just saying it's not Jamaica.
Right. No, I had to be at the Clio one. That's my hometown, man.
That's right.
Man, if I could have told people in high school, man, one day the High Times Cannabis Cup will come to Clio, Michigan. People laughed.
Oh yeah, the outcast for sure.
Yeah.
But little did they know you had the crystal ball.
Yeah, I could see it. I could envisioned it coming.
The dream came true.
It did.
All right. Other news I wanted to mention is we had the tampered test. I just don't want to let people forget this. This is the Michigan State Police Crime Lab that was essentially, manipulating the results of their test. And I don't want to say manipulating the results because they weren't manipulating the results. They're just simply mislabeling them. I mean, when you put down that this is a particular substance, but we don't really know where it came from, I would have to say that's an inaccurate appraisal of whatever that substance is, regardless of whatever lab's doing the testing, so on and so forth. When you put down source, origin unknown, that would be an insufficient test.
Right.
Would not tell us exactly what that substance is. That's what the State Police Crime Lab reported. That's what the prosecutor used to go after a Michigan citizen for a felonious grade crime, which was previously a misdemeanor. So this is a big deal, and you can imagine if you were in that person's shoes, you got busted with some shatter or some BHO, and now they're trying to tell you that this is synthetic and you're now going to be guilty of Michigan's new synthetic marijuana law. That's pretty offensive. It's completely 100% untrue, and you should certainly not be getting backed up into a corner by a Michigan State Police Crime Lab that doesn't even really verify what it is that you actually were being busted with. It's preposterous. The results and the comments that have come from the law enforcement involved, from the crime lab, so on, have been disparaging to say the least. And I just want to keep this fresh in people's minds because we need to figure out exactly, what's going to happen. This needs to be resolved. It can't just get brushed underneath the table. You got to have accurate results coming out of the crime lab. And, we know as a community that these other forms of cannabis aren't going away. Whether it be, BHO, shatter, wax, bubble hash, edibles, it doesn't matter. If you're going to regulate it, if you're going to test it, if you're going to convict people over it, you have to have accurate test results. It's 100%. So 100% scientific results.
Sure.
All right. Another thing I wanted to mention, Detroit. If you live in Detroit, this is probably a really big deal to you. For the rest of the state, we sort of forget about Detroit other than, when they play on Sundays and piss us all off. But other than that, as far as for medical marijuana in Detroit, there's a lot of flurry going on. The city council is trying right now to pass an ordinance that would allow dispensaries to operate within city limits. The issue at hand right now is that there's quite a few different people that are opposed to these types of businesses operating at all in their neighborhood, and the restrictions that they're trying to put in place on these businesses is quite extensive. And what they're saying, and I can read to you here from this, see here, they have a 1,000-foot restriction from any place of worship, any other place that serves alcohol, any school, any park, And so essentially, if you were to look at the zoning map here in the city of Detroit,
Right.
And you put this 1,000-foot barrier around all of these different types of places, there's no place left in the city that you could actually legally operate. And then that is, in a nutshell, it is zoning out any
Right.
of these potentially or potential businesses. Now,
Yeah.
Detroit currently has about approximately 150 different dispensaries that have opened up in the interim while there hasn't been a law or an ordinance to guide how these businesses should operate within the city. So one could argue that they certainly need to have some type of ordinance regulating these businesses, their manner of operation, locations, so on and so forth. However, I think it needs to be dealt with in a little bit more amenable regulatory framework than what we're looking at here. So, 1,000 feet of a drug-free school zone, churches, and liquor stores. I mean, I don't see any reason why you need to be 1,000 foot away from a liquor store. A liquor store is an adult use type operation. If you want to group in these medical users into an adult use type facility, it seems like you want to keep them in the same area. So some of it doesn't even make sense to me from a third party standpoint.
Sure.
If you're looking at it to just simply try to, eliminate the possibility that medical marijuana would be in your town, this ordinance would be an effective way to do that. So to pass this under the guise that now we're going to go ahead and regulate these businesses and we want it to be done properly and so on and so forth, and in the meantime, basically make it impossible for them to do so, well, you might as well just say they're illegal and not go through the work of passing such ordinance.
And Detroit has to be cautious too that they don't pass an ordinance which is too restrictive, because if they do, they fall into the Tobik decision of 2014, February 6th. And the Tobik decision came down, and basically the Supreme Court was unanimous decision on that, ruling of 7-0 that that federal law does not oversee the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, and that the local municipalities cannot restrict. They can regulate, but they can't restrict to the point anything in the Act that is codified under Section 4.
Sure.
So anything that anybody has a card legal to do with, they can't be restricted. So if the city of Detroit does write an ordinance that is too restrictive, and they do, especially if they also invoke a problematic issue, which is what you pointed out, which is exclusionary zoning, by simply not allowing any place on the map. In fact, there's been court cases that have ruled against communities that are supposed to have zoned areas for adult entertainment. And even if you don't allow it even for that, then you can still be sued. So there's various things on that. So the city has to be very cautious. And I really think that the people that are really against this too are really taking a backwards approach in this, because they don't really realize that fundamentally that too much restriction also increases black market
or criminal
activity. So basically you want to legitimize this all that we can, so that these things can take place in a legitimate business that is licensed and regulated to the local community. And I think they should recognize this, because if in turn that's going to help create their community and to be safer, and they're going to have more vibrance economically.
I agree 100%. So I think it could be an opportunity for Detroit in a positive fashion, done from a sensible approach.
Sure.
I guess is what I want to say to their ordinance. And currently, right now, it's just a little too restrictive. I think with a few minor changes, it can make it so that it is workable for businesses and for the community around them. And there are some legitimate concerns. They don't want to see 3,000 dispensaries opened in Detroit. And as the one of the city councilmen, I think his name is Councilman Tate, was quoted as saying, he wants Detroit to be a city of hope, not a city of dope. And certainly understandable. Certainly with Detroit's past and history, wants to create a positive image and overcome the obstacles that it's faced in the past. I think they're trying to do that. And if they're able to make a few different compromises on this ordinance, I think it could be something that could be workable. So currently, right now, unfortunately, it's not. All right, so you got to switch that around.
I would agree.
All right, next thing I wanted to mention is you guys heard about the DEA chief. Gentleman's name is Chuck Rosenberg.
This is the guy who said marijuana wasn't a medicine?
Yeah, he basically called marijuana or medical marijuana. He said the entire premise is a joke. As are his exact words. That's a quote. And it's quite the outrage for someone to get on especially a national leader at this level, to call an entire population of people, you were talking about millions of people here,
Millions of people
that use marijuana medicinally, and call them all just a joke. And I think it's quite offensive.
Recent Gallup poll, I think, says at minimum 10% of the population in the United States.
And the other thing is that we have to remember this is a person who's the head of the DEA. He's not a part of the American Medical Association.
Sure.
He's not the general surgeon. He's coming from a position of law enforcement, and so for him to make comments about medicinal items or things related to health and so on, I think is out of line in the first place. And then to go as this far, I think it's really in poor taste. Anyways, there's this a petition gathering signatures for his recall because of these comments. As of the reading or writing of this particular article, I'm quoting from, let's see here, this is Emily Gray Brosius on November 15th. The petition had 80,000 signatures. I looked it up today on change.org. It's where you can find the petition. And it's got 137,000 supporters currently. So quite a few people have signed on to the petition. These petitions, I can tell you honestly, they usually don't get a whole lot of anything done. But it is a nice thing, and if you get a couple million supporters on something, the president does take notice. 100,000, maybe not so much. So if you guys want to take this seriously, then we need to get more names on the petition. But at any rate, I think it does reflect the sentiment of the department, and also obviously the head of the department, Chuck Rosenberg, who made the comments himself. So
and I also have to comment. I have to commend our elected officials at that level too for pointing out to the DEA that they should know better, and that if they don't know the difference between a harmful drug and a non-harmful drug like marijuana, then because they're lumping it in the same category, and they want to just continue to say that marijuana is harmful, it's addictive, and all this and that.
I'm not going to argue that there aren't people that are in states' medical marijuana programs that shouldn't be there. They're using the program, or they're just simply a part of the program so they can get the meds and so on and so forth. But there's the majority of the people that are in the programs, not just here in Michigan, but across the nation, that are in there for legitimate reasons, that are under the advisement of their physician and are taking this very seriously. And so for someone in a position of authority like that to come up and call those folks a joke, I think it's very offensive, to say the least.
Yep.
All right, let's move on and talk about Michigan. Before we get into the Senate, I got one more thing I want to talk about, and that is our current medical marijuana program. When we switched things up back a couple of years ago, we passed some laws. One of those was the transport bill. So I'm sure most of you folks are aware of that now. So if you're transporting your medical marijuana, it needs to be locked away in a container. It needs to be inaccessible is the main thing from you while you're operating the vehicle, and from the other people in the car as well. But along with that law, a few other changes were enacted, and one of those was exactly how do they spend the money from the program. So you all noticed that the fees changed. It used to be either $100 or $25, depending on whether or not you're on disability, or you paid the full price, which was $100. They changed the fee and changed it from a 1-year to a 2-year program. So now I'm hoping I'm getting you to recall the changes. When they changed this, they also changed the wording on how they were going to allocate the funds from when we pay our $60 fee, which is the new fee that they changed it to back 2 years ago. So now they're collecting $60 on every state application that's sent in. We know that currently there's over 150,000 people in the state's program, including both patients and caregivers. These applications are good for 2 years. And again, the fee is $60. So obviously there's a large amount of revenue that's being collected from the program, and it goes mostly to pay for itself. So we're paying for background checks, we're paying for the cards to be issued, we're paying for the folks at LARA to sit there and to do their job. But we're also collecting additional revenue from the program, and that money there is being given out to a specific fund, and that's part of the changes that I was just talking about. So this fund basically goes into a collection status, and then it sits there to where other state police and county law enforcement departments can petition the fund to get a grant. And they essentially can get a grant, and it's supposed to be to help educate and promote awareness of medical marijuana to their law enforcement patrol officers or detectives, basically people that are in law enforcement. So if you're let's say for instance the Genesee County Sheriff's Department could request a grant from this particular pile of cash that the state's collected from the medical marijuana fees and say, hey, we'd like to have an educational seminar done. It's going to train our officers on how to properly identify medical marijuana patients or so on and so forth. And we'd like some money for that. They could actually ask the state, and the state has the money for them to get that. There's a few state police officers out there, departments, that have gone so far as to get this done. So they're on the ball. And again, this money was designated when they made the change that the money would be taken from the medical marijuana fees and then turned back around to help law enforcement understand how to properly do their job in regards to medical marijuana.
How's it been working?
Well, it's been here we go. This is what it's going to. All right, this is from the Times-Herald, and you can also check out this information on, I believe it's Compasion Chronicles.
Okay.
Rick Thompson's website.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the info. In 2016, the Sanilac County Drug Task Force was eligible to receive $12,986 based on the 367 patient cards issued and renewed in the county in 2015. In St. Clair County, 2015 money was used for knock and talk compliance checks, some equipment, flyovers to check for illegal grow operations, and training in Lansing on medical marijuana grow operations. The majority of the grant, about $33,700, was spent on wages for training and enforcement of medical marijuana law. The report noted that officials found the majority of grow operations they checked were in compliance with laws. Those with minor violations were instructed on how to correct those violations. So that sounds pretty good there.
Mm-hmm.
Says here, in 2015, Sanilac County Drug Force spent the money awarded the period between April and September on salary, equipment, and drug education. Equipment purchases included iPads, a utility trailer, uniform shirts, jackets, and stun guns. Director Jim Johnson said the iPads allowed deputies to photograph evidence and produce reports. They also used during educational presentations throughout the county. He said the utility trailer is used to transport equipment and evidence. So there you go. I got some more numbers for you. Macomb County Sheriff Department used $36,000 of the approximately $63,000 available in grant money. The Pierre County used $19,000 of approximately $36,000 available. There's nothing on here that I see anything for Genesee County, so I would assume that Genesee County's Sheriff's Department does have some money available to them, because this is actually based on the number of patient cards issued in Genesee County. Which I'd imagine to be a pretty large amount. So my advice to the County Sheriff's Department would be, go get your money.
Right.
However, please, if you get the money, don't spend it on freaking iPads.
Right.
I mean,
and
seriously.
tasers.
I'm sure that your officers would love to have an iPad. My kid would too. However, we need to get stuff for your department that you actually need.
Right.
And I would say poo-poo to these departments that went out and blew it on things that are going to actually be used to turn back around and bust medical marijuana people. I mean, seriously, he bought a trailer to haul your plants away.
Right.
Said it right there, I bought it to haul evidence.
Right.
I think we need to have better controls and restraints on our government when we start collecting our money and turning it around and allowing them to spend it. We need to be able to dictate how that money is spent very specifically, because obviously when we leave it to them, the decisions that are being made are ridiculous. They're buying out stun guns. How is that supposed to help medical marijuana patients? How is that supposed to go back and help out the people that put that money in your hands?
Right.
So that you can hit them with a stun gun? I mean, seriously, and then put them in a trailer, I guess.
Hold the card up where we can see it. Hold the card up where we can see it. Okay, right there.
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm going to comment on that. As a township trustee, I know that there are grants submitted all the time by my chief of police and others. And when we get grant money in, especially if these grant monies come in specifically directed to law enforcement, here's the issue or the problem that I see and I have with it. As that money comes in, yes, it has a category that it's supposed to be spent on law enforcement categories and things that have to do with law enforcement. But what the problem I have is when that money comes in, if it goes directly to the account of law enforcement, then it's almost like the chief or the police departments have more control over what that money is spent on.
Sure.
And in my opinion, there should be a checks and balance set in place so that when the money comes in, it doesn't just directly go into the police fund to let them get their fingers on it.
Right.
It should go into more of a separate category or a general fund, and then the elected officials, the representatives of that community, should then decide how exactly that money is spent and what exactly that training or whatever entails. And then the rest of the money can either be banked in the general fund or put into other funds, maybe even stored in the police budget fund for future things, such as things that actually can be needed, such as vehicle breakdown repairs or a new vehicle, or whatever.
In defense of some of the police officers there in that report, some of them stated that heck, we did turn around and use it for salary. So obviously that means more time of patrol on the street, which is a good thing.
Sure.
So I'm not saying that everything they used that money for in the report was
Right.
bogus,
Sure.
but obviously some of it I don't agree with. And,
Right.
If we're going to turn back around and use it to simply pay officers to be out there doing their job, great.
Right, you're right.
I don't have a problem with that at all.
Right, and I don't either.
agree with what you're
Right.
saying. If
Yeah,
there
and I
should
don't
be a
either.
check and balance system put in place to ensure that, hey, if you're going to get extra special money, especially, being that it's being charged to medical patients here, and you're going to take their money, then you should be able to have a very close check and balance system
Right.
to ensure that it's going to be used properly.
And it's always up to the elected officials of the community to decide on what your tax dollars are spent on, and that's just being fiscally responsible to the point where you have the proper checks and balances in place to see where the money's going and that nobody's cheating the system, that no one's just dumping it into a slush fund
Couldn't agree
for their vacation pay.
Absolutely.
And that's just important to keep those things in mind.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Michigan, obviously we want to talk about the Senate hearing that occurred yesterday, and obviously speaking about taking, your money, the government taking your money and deciding how to spend it, that was a big part of yesterday's topic in the hearing. Obviously, we had the third Senate hearing on House Bill 4209. Also included the other two bills that were being talked about. But Senator Rick Jones and the Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing yesterday in Lansing regarding these bills. Of course, we're talking about, again, House Bill 4209. This is the dispensary bill, as most people have come to learn about it. We call it Provisioning Center Act.
I call it the Frankenstein.
The Frankenstein, we could call it the three-tiered medical marijuana monopoly bill, whatever you want to call it, but I think most people are getting used to the numbers now, 4209.
4209.
The accompanying bills are simply the seed to sale tracking system and then also the edibles bill, if you want to leave it at that. But really the bulk of the discussion yesterday's topic was House Bill 4209, dealing specifically with the Provisioning Centers Act, and how this breaks the whole system down into a three-tiered operating system similar to our alcohol distribution system here in Michigan. It exercises a 3% sales tax on the product, and also it includes quite a few additional regulations and additions by the state and local government, licensing boards, so on and so forth. It's a quite extensive bill here. And we've talked about this on the program.
Fingerprinting.
Quite a bit. Yeah, fingerprinting, you name it.
What is that about? Fingerprinting?
A lot of stuff here. So
Is it the future of any entrepreneurial business now? You've got to be an owner of anything.
Well,
you've got to have your fingerprints.
In certain businesses, it is becoming commonplace to have things like fingerprints and background checks and so on. So
maybe if you're a gun dealer.
Well, even in other things like insurance and banking, you have to have stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with somebody's life. Anyways, not to get off topic here. Obviously, the bills here are what was presented yesterday, and yesterday the Senate committee did take testimony from proponents, or I would say supporters of the medical marijuana community. People like Mr. Eric Gunnels was able to testify yesterday. People like Rick Thompson from Michigan Normal and the Compasion Chronicles, and quite a few other folks as well gave testimony yesterday. Most of it, I would have to say, from the reports given, overall was a negative testimony towards these bills and asking them not to be passed. Obviously, you know how we feel about these bills on the program here. We do not support House Bill 4209 or its accompanying acts, and for a number of reasons which we've discussed at length on the program here. But I did want to have Eric come on the show today and tell us a little bit about what happened at the hearing yesterday, some of the overall sentiment that's going on. So give us an idea, Eric. What is the feel going on right now. I think what's on everyone's mind, besides the details of what went on yesterday, what's happening with this bill? Where are we at?
I think the sentiments by those by those legislators and those that think this is a good bill, the sentiments are that this bill does not amend the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, but basically parallels it. And then I basically addressed Senator Jones at the committee hearing with the fact that I was opposed to 4209 because it does not have the proper language to encompass the current medical marijuana patients and caregivers who already have licenses, who are already taking part in a self-regulating system with no guidance from the state. We've just been left to be on our own and self-regulate, and we've done a very good job of that. And I pointed that out to Senator Jones, and I said, but your language in here does not encompass those people to be able to participate in the sales tax even. So like anybody with a medical marijuana card, you're kind of like left going, well, shouldn't I pay the 3% sales tax on it if everybody else is? Well, this bill doesn't include you. This bill doesn't include any description at all about you.
You're making an excellent point, because Senator Jones is still trying to sell this package of bills that it does run parallel with the current system, and that somehow the current system wouldn't be affected. However, yet he took testimony in his last hearing from the Michigan State Police, who told Senator Jones point blank, if you do pass these new set of bills, you need to get rid of the old system, because your new set of bills won't even work if you don't get rid of the old one.
And I can also tell you from the perspective of a township official, both as a trustee and a planning commission official, because I'm appointed to the planning commission of my township as well. And basically, if you were going to approach this language from a municipality perspective, whether that's a city, a township, or anywhere, you would first have to go before the planning commission with this. And the planning commission is going to be the 5 or so people that review this and review you and all the variables and circumstances of it. And you're going to have to go through that first. And my issue with that is when I look at this and I look at the common people who are already doing businesses currently, who already have businesses open, whether that be whatever those businesses are described as, whatever they are, there's no language in here that describes those current places.
Right.
So my issue is in that my great concerns are that when planning commissions across the state of Michigan receive this, this right here, that anybody who's already currently operating with, the permission or just simply the acceptance or simply tolerance of their community, they're not going to be able to apply to any of this. And if you somehow even come close to applying to some of this scrutinization, I still don't see, especially with the group as known as MRC, that is pushing that other legalization ballot for that only gives us 2 plants, which we don't like, and that other group was down there, and they stressed their sentiments, and they felt that these need to be even more restrictive, and that very few licenses need to be issued out. And so a lot of people that even came to me already and said, well, this could be a good thing, right, potentially? And I said, well, no, not really, because what makes you think you're going to get one of these licenses?
Right.
You know what I mean?
You're making a good point. Not only does your local planning commission have to approve your plan, then your local township has to approve it.
Yes.
Then you have to go get approved by the state.
Right.
And so there's a lot of hurdles that would have to be overcome.
Yep.
And Senator Jones has tried to present this as this is not a monopolizing type program. However, I ensure to you, I promise you, this is anything but that. It is absolutely a monopolizing type of a program that is meant to,
especially with the other bills attached to it.
Absolutely, create enough restrictions in it so where your common person will not be able to participate.
Right.
I also want to give you some idea of the backwardsness that is Senator Jones. While he has said that this is supposed to run parallel or alongside with our current law, here is his exact quote in yesterday's paper. The current system we have now, everybody must understand, is illegal.
Right.
This is an attempt to ensure that doesn't happen.
Right.
That's Senator Jones's quote right there.
Right.
So this man may be telling us one thing in the hearing, he may be singing one tune, but I can tell you that these bills here are set to dismantle the current program, and
Right.
we have to do everything we can to prevent these from passing.
I would agree, because that is, you're exactly right. Because when I addressed him and I said, well, and he responded to me by saying, well, this parallels the act. It doesn't amend the act, and it doesn't stop or impede the caregivers, from doing their thing. But when he said that to me, and I said, with all due respect, I said, this bill does not include them. You know what I mean? So they can't even participate in a taxation process. Many caregivers have expressed to me, look, I would be glad to pay a 3% sales tax. You know what I'm saying? Or just something, just a little bit, giving it back to the system for whatever reasons. I mean, obviously, we prefer a system of regulation as long as it's not over-regulated. But this is over-regulated, and I specifically said that. I said the language in this is too strong, it's too much regulation, and it doesn't provide any protections for people who are currently here.
And that's really the core of it, is that if we look at these types of bills, originally what we were trying to do is to provide protection for patients and for communities.
Right.
And really what this set of bill does, or what these bills do, is neither of those.
Right.
The only thing it provides protection for are for companies.
Right.
It's the only thing this bill does, is it provides a network and a framework for how an industry companies can come in and do their business.
Right.
It does not address, nothing in here is going to help improve a community.
No.
And nothing in here is going to help a patient access their medication.
Right.
In
nothing's going to help. Nothing's going to help officers clarify what patients and caregivers are doing.
If you're telling us,
this gives nothing.
Senator Jones has been saying for 6 years now how much of a mess our current law is.
Right, but this doesn't help law. This does not help law enforcement at all.
And says, well, this doesn't change the current law.
Right.
So then, why are we so dead set on passing this if it's not fixing the problem that you said is a problem?
Exactly. And if it really, if he really intentionally wants to provide clarity for law enforcement, that's fine. But nothing in this bill provides that.
And you obviously cannot provide clarity if you're not doing anything with the current law.
Right.
And he said so himself. Oh, this doesn't affect the current law. Well, then you're not providing clarity on the current law, are you?
And
you're just providing a whole other network for people to worry about.
And without any kind of statement in here or provision to currently regulate the ones that we have, or make a distinction between a dispensary or a compassion club, and various things like this. There's no distinction. There's just no description for that kind of thing in here.
No.
So it's a completely separate thing altogether. Jumping to the House Bill 4210, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, before we get into that, I want to wrap this up here because it's real important right now that you understand where the process is at on these bills and what is the next stage. Because currently right now, these bills, even though they are somewhat different, we've got a tracking system, we've got an edibles bill, and we've got this dispensary bill. The dispensary bill and the tracking are, in a sense, in the same thing. They're tied together, and they have to be done together.
Right. If they're passed, they all pass together.
Or they pass or fail together.
Sure.
So these bills right here are the ones that Senator Jones has come out in the paper and said he's going to get these bills done. He's adamant about it. And currently, right now, we have about 2 weeks left of the legislative session in the Michigan State Senate. So if something doesn't get done, if a bill isn't voted on in this next 2 weeks, it's going to essentially die in session and would restart up next year. Time is running out, essentially. So anything that is going to get signed into law or passed by our Senate and House, these bills have already been passed by the House. Technically, since they've submitted substitutions and so forth, it should have to go back to the House and be repassed. But with Senator Jones, he's a very powerful man. He can do what he wants, and there's a good possibility he could get these bills up for a Senate vote by the end of this year. Right. Even though they are not yet out of his committee, he could force them to the floor without a committee vote if he wants to. He could call his committee to order tonight and vote them out of committee. He was quoted in the papers saying he had every intention of passing these bills out of committee before the committee hearing yesterday even started. So if that tells you that this man doesn't care what you think, it should tell you that, because he really doesn't. He does not care. All of the people that gave testimony yesterday, he planned on passing these bills yesterday out of his committee, regardless of whatever those people were going to say yesterday. And we had 3 hours of testimony yesterday. Yes. Obviously, none of that mattered to him because his intention was to pass these out of committee yesterday. The only reason they didn't is because 2 of the senators in the committee had to leave early. and because they had first personal matters to attend to. So they didn't have enough people there yesterday to take a vote. If they were, he would have passed these through his committee yesterday, in spite of what everybody said, in spite of all the opposition, in spite of the fact that he created a substitution that he did not make available to everyone until, 5 minutes before the meeting.
Right.
So this guy has the power, and he has the ability to do what he wants. We need to take our stand right now and to let our senators know that this bill is not what we want. Senator Jones' area includes a large area, and some of you are in his area and don't even know it. He includes Shiawassee County, Clinton County, and parts of Eaton County. You need to get onto your Michigan State Senate site and find out who your state senator is, because they realigned the Senate districts about 2 years ago, and they're not what you think they are. They're not what they were before, and it doesn't make sense geographically. Genesee County right now used to have 2 state senators, and currently right now we have 3. We have Ken Horn, we have Dave Robertson, and we have Jim Ananick. So if you want to call your state senator, you need to look up your state senator to find out who represents you. If you're on the east side of the county, chances are it's Ken Horn. If you're on the south side of the county, it's probably going to be David Robertson. I keep wanting to call him Pat Robertson. David Robertson. If you're on the west, I'm getting east and west mixed up. If you're on the west side of the county, it's going to be Ken Horn. If you're on the south side, Dave Robertson. If you're on the east side, Jim Ananick. You need to look it up, though, because it's not split up evenly.
Right.
And if you call the wrong senator, he's going to ask, well, are you a constituent? Do you live in my area?
And
what's your address?
Right, and then it's embarrassing if you don't know.
Yeah.
And then you seem like a fool, and then nothing that you really have to say really makes much of an impact or much of a difference.
On the county state's website, but it's going to pull up a map, kind of like this.
There you go.
And it is hard to see, folks, and I apologize.
This has got a map in here. I was looking for it.
But you can go to michigansenate.gov, pull up the information for yourself. You type in your address, your street address, or your zip code.
There we go.
And it'll tell you who your state senator is.
This is
That's
Genesee
a little better,
County,
isn't it? Yeah.
Yep. And
So this is for your reps, and this one's for your state senate. So this one right here is your state senate guide. But at any rate, you want to look it up. One of these 3 guys is your state senator. I can tell you mine is Jim Ananick, who is a great senator. He is on our side, but he needs to know that we do not support these bills.
Yes, right, because Senator Jim Ananick is just like, every other senator. They look at it, they think that the intent is there. They think that their colleagues at the state level are doing the right thing. But they need to hear from their constituents. That's you. They need to hear from the people. It's because the people are the ones that are supposed to support or not support legislation by contacting the legislators and letting them know through the ear of the phone what you think. And please, always when you contact your senator, be polite, respectful, keep it short and sweet and simple.
And just all you're really going to be doing most likely is leaving a message with their aide or a voicemail.
Right.
And stay on topic. This is about medical marijuana, and you go ahead and tell them what your opinion is.
Right.
It has nothing to do with legalization or recreational. Don't talk about that stuff if you're going to call about these bills, because they don't have anything to do with it.
Right.
This is about medical marijuana. So please call your state senator, let them know how you feel. This is the only way that we can really do anything. And if we get enough phone calls, maybe we can make a difference. These bills, like I said, they are running out of time.
Right.
But there is a possibility that they could go up for a vote. And they are going to be devastating if they go through. So we need to make sure that our state senators are aware of the fact that we do not support these bills.
Right.
And again, Dave Robertson, Ken Horn, and Jim Ananick. And I can tell you right now, Ken Horn is one of the original sponsors of this bill package. So for him to turn around and say no would be a big, big blow to these bills. And I don't know that you could convince Mr. Horn to do that. But I think if Mr. Horn received, maybe 30, 40 phone calls a day up until when these votes get in front of him,
right,
maybe it change his mind.
Right.
He needs to understand these bills are not what they originally started with. He tried to get these bills to be something that would be productive for the patient and caregiver community, and they have been hijacked.
Exactly.
And we need to let them know that's how we feel, and we need to let them know that we do not support these bills. So please, I just encourage you, the most important thing that you can do over the holiday season in regards to your medical marijuana, and trying to protect your access to it and trying to protect the model that is currently existent here in the state. It's done a lot of positive things for people. We started off the program by being able to share with you what the G3C was able to do this year because of all of you guys, and all of you guys are able to do this because of the current law. And if we dismantle it, where's that all going to go? I highly doubt that these big 4 or 5 companies that are going to get the contracts are going to turn back around and benefit the community the way you guys are.
Right.
And our state senators take note of that. So the more that we can get in there and be a bell in their ear, let's do it. All right.
Yes, we need to be a voice, and make sure that you contact your correct state senator, because it is important. It's imperative that they know that you are a voting constituent and that you pay attention to these kind of votes. And that if he does not vote the way you want to, you will not be voting for him next time. And you can say that to them. Yeah. And that's not unreasonable to say that, because that is how it's supposed to be. Your elected officials are supposed to represent the community they are from. Bottom line.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you would, these little booklets, this is a county directory. You can usually find these little county directories, which are kind of new, the 2015-16 ones. And they're spread out usually at your community halls, like your township hall or your city municipality hall, usually on the front desk. You can pick them up. Or if you don't see them there, ask about them. And other than that, you can go online, though, and check it out online. You can go to, what's the website that you can go to check out your state senator?
MichiganStateSenate.gov.
Right.
So just Google it.
Google it.
It's easy.
There you go.
So, Eric, thanks for coming on the show today, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
the updates and appreciate you being at the Capitol and representing us down there and giving testimony.
Yes.
It's important that they hear that, even if you have guys like, Senator Jones, who just obviously doesn't care what we have to say, the rest of the world still cares. And there was quite a few different articles and papers around the state yesterday and this morning. And they were, for the most part, telling, there was a radio show this morning, NPR, had Robin Schneider on there from National Patients' Rights Association. And, that's one of the groups that originally kind of spearheaded this whole bill from the beginning. And they have since turned back around and said, hey, we no longer support these bills. They're not what we wanted. So I know a lot of people are angry with that group because they feel like they're sort of responsible for these.
Right.
But, you have to understand that these are not what they originally started with.
Right.
The intention of these bills is nowhere near what the intention was when they were originally created.
Right, exactly.
So, it's good that the media is getting to be talked about this. Maybe some more senators will start to put their heads up.
I hope so. Any thoughts on 4210?
The edibles bill, I don't, that's a separate bill. It is not T-barred like the other ones. I think it's actually a good bill. I don't know that this bill itself is going to get
because
nearly as much publicity as the other bills.
It also needs a 3/4 majority.
Yeah, and again, I think that this bill here would actually take a separate vote from these ones here.
I'm sure it would.
And to me, I feel like right now all of the hype is about the 4209, the dispensary bill. So
of course.
I don't see this one here actually being far enough along in the process currently right now to actually even get to a vote, unfortunately. I like the bill. And that's probably why it won't go.
Right. I thought it was decent too. I'm not an attorney. I can't catch every little semantic of words, but I think it does provide some better language.
I think 4120, the edibles bill, I think that's a good bill. It's something I would support. But unfortunately, honestly, in reality, I feel like that bill has fallen by the wayside under the hype of the Provisioning Act. And right now the Provisioning Act isn't providing anything, except for a way for rich people to get richer.
Right.
So, call your senators, guys. Hopefully, be back here next week. Again, thank you, Eric, for coming in the studio this week.
Always a pleasure.
John, thanks for being with us here. All Points TV rocks, and so does the G3C. Thanks for being with us this week, you guys. Have an amazing holiday. Be safe and take care.